It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. Today I'm going to be doing a not quick look at the GK68 Hotswappable keyboard. Now this keyboard was sent to me as part of a review for Banggood. They supplied this keyboard. However, this is not a paid review, so everything and anything that I say, of course, is 100% my opinion and my opinion alone. The good points, the bad points, how I feel about it, how I am experiencing this keyboard. The other thing is, I was sent this review as part of the Banggood 13-year anniversary sale, which is happening right now in September. So I will have some links below, which I was happy to put in the description, and there's also a product link, and of course I think there's a coupon code that will be in the description. If you like what you see today in this video, go check it out. You know the drill. Now the reason why I say this is a not quick review is because I always have reviews of stuff and people go, why are your videos so long? And I don't really pay too much attention about that because I know I like to talk and I like to get into depth, but it does annoy some people. So if you're expecting this to be quick, I'm sorry, too bad, so sad. But for everyone else who like what I do and who have commented in other videos, thank you very much. I really appreciate that feedback. Getting my words a bit jumbled today. So here is the package that was sent to me. I'm not going to flip around to the other side because it's got my address details on it. And this plastic is pretty flimsy, so you can see it kind of got a bit messed up in shipping, and I can already tell that the box got crushed. This was sent from a local drop ship, so it didn't come from overseas, and they just put it into a thin, flimsy bag. So please keep that in mind, that if there's any damage to the keyboard, it is most likely from the local supplier of this not taking care of it, and it probably doesn't reflect upon the quality, but we'll see if that's actually true or not as we get into it. So before we get into opening this up, let's just have a very quick look on the monitor on what we're expecting to see. This is the actual listing. You can see it's a $200 rough Australian product. It's meant to be an aluminium case. It claims Dyesubbed PBT keycaps. It's hot swappable, and I think they sent me brown switch, not red switch, but you can see there's brown switch, red switch options. Now it's 68 key layout. It's a Skylong brand. Geek, I don't even know what that means. Detachable USB, it is wired. It's got RGB backlight. We already know that's DSA Dyesubbed from the description. Aluminium, cable length 1.5, supports modern OSs. Keycaps are not shine through. Okay, so that's good to know. Do not support shine through backlit. With music driven motion light mode, the backlit will blink with the music. That'll be interesting to test. There's flash memory for offline mode. Now I have already been to this driver link and I've already downloaded and I've already installed it. So right now this is what the actual software looks like, because there's no keyboard packed into it, so we won't know what it looks like till it plugged into it, not packed into it. But supposedly, if we look at this, it's got hot swap. I don't know what kind of hot swaps they are because it doesn't look like there's any pins here, and they just look like normal switches here right now. DSA, not a big deal. This is what the software claims that it'll look like. Hopefully the English is English. And offline mode means you can actually switch between set modes when it's flashed onto the keyboard. So that'll be interesting if we can make that happen and work. And it's meant to come with this soft padded case. So, and right now you can see there's no reviews on this whatsoever. I know this introduction is kind of long, but I promised it wasn't going to be a short video anyway. This keyboard has already been offered and sold previously on places like Drop, formerly known as Mass Drop. So we know it's an established board in the community if it's already been big enough to go onto Drop, formerly known as Mass Drop. So that it's actually on offer now through like the Asian stores like Banggood. You could probably find it on AliExpress or any of the other competitors to Banggood as well. Means the affordability is probably there, as well as the fact that you don't have to wait for a group buy or a drop buy like you may have had to in the past. So that's what we're expecting to see. It should hopefully look like that. Hopefully it'll function like that. So let's head back to the desktop and actually get this out. Okay, so it's a very nondescript black box. I can already see there's a bit of crush damage here. Obviously we're looking at the back side of it. Alright, so let's get that out of the way. Wash that down there. So the front of it's got the logo, which we already saw in the software, just in the corner. Right there. There's the actual 6 Plus logo. So that's nice, but the box is pretty badly beat. The back of this indicates that it is brown switch. Okay, so that's what we're expecting it to be, a brown switch. There's nothing on the other sides of it. It's pretty nondescript. It's got a good heft to it already. Okay, let's see what we get. Alrighty, GK68 RGB function. It's all in Chinese on this side, and it's on English on this side. So we have, let's bring that up a little bit closer. Press function with the function keys. So there's a hexagon 1, 2, and 3 here. We've got print screen, scroll lock, print, pause break. We've got some brightness controls here. Insert, home, page up, page down, and minus, plus. That looks like what the defaults are. And then this is really interesting. I've never seen this before. So this is RoHS's reduction or removal of hazardous substance, something like that. And they've got this little materials chart here where it actually says lead, mercury, cadmium, chromium. I don't know what PBB is and PBD is, but plastic, it can see that. And then metal parts, circuit board, cable, it indicates what is actually in there. So plastic parts have CD in them, in cadmium in the plastic. Metal might have lead, circuit board might have cadmium but no lead and no mercury. The cable might have lead in it. So I've never actually seen that before. That's pretty cool. And then this is a very fine table which tells you what functionality that you're going to get out of it as well. So that's a handy reference. Now, here is the cable, and ooh, there's a, I think that's a switch puller that I'm seeing here. So, oh, and there's some bumpons too. So that's a very simplistic switch puller, very flexible, but it hooks in and pulls. I've actually got a switch puller which I think is probably a better one. So we'll be using this IC type puller instead. But that's nice that they give you one. We've got one packet of 2 tiny little feet right there. So they're just 3M stick-on feet. And then we've got this USB-C cable, braided, feels alright quality. And then we've got a keycap puller, one of these plastic things. Alright, so let's put the, we'll leave out the bumpons. We'll put that back in, and we'll put that back in because we won't need those because I've got other ones. We'll put that reference to the side. So here's that fiber. It's not really, it's not felt, it's a fiber kind of material. It's an alright texture. It looks nice. The elastic is quite snappy from the factory. That's it. Wow. There is no other protective padding in here. That's a bit of a concern, noting that how badly this box has been just crushed in shipping, that if you were getting sent this from overseas, you may have some concerns if they don't put extra padding on the outside. So let's just move that out of the way. Okay, let's get this up. it's quite thick. You can see it's got a good number of mils on that. I'm gonna just do a quick, it's about 3 mil thick material, so you know, it's quite durable. I like that. And at least it's got plastic covering it on the inside. Here we go. So there's nothing else that is in here. It's just pretty simple, stitched together. Okay, let's open on the side, and here it is. It's quite nice. I'm very impressed actually at that. It looks just like it should from the pictures. You know what? You don't even need those bumpons because they've got them pre-installed. They just must be spares. And then there's some too down here. So that's actually really cool. It's super solid. I'm obviously flexing that, but I'm not getting any effects because... And this is one piece. This aluminum case is one piece. I actually thought it might have been openable in that there would have been screws on the bottom. Now there's obviously screws that are going to be under those bumpons for the feet because I can unscrew that. No, there's no screws underneath that because it's actually milled into that. So if you want it to be flat, I guess you can put the bumpons there and you don't have that elevation on it. That's actually remarkably easy to put on and take off. But it means that this is a tray mount, so the PCB and the switches mount into the case because this is just one continuous milled case. There's no seams, there's no parts that come apart. Now I did bring out the kitchen scale so we can see how heavy this is before we get too much further. Alright. Okay, we'll just re-tear that. So we're back to 0 and so it's nearly a kilogram, 964. Now if you put the cable with it, 999. So it's spot on 1 kilogram if you include that cable with it. Yeah, it's practically a kilo. Just look at that. So it's fluctuating roughly in that context. So that's good to know. Now it's, you know, no different weight-wise to say a liter of water, or if you're carrying something else around that nature. 2.25 pounds I think is what that is going to come up to in imperial means. And well, it's a really comfortable angle. I don't have a wrist rest here, but I don't feel like I need to because it's quite a light angle. If I try and take some form of measurement to it, you know, it's only angled up about, what's that? It's probably not the best way of measuring it because my ruler doesn't go all the way to that. It's about an inch that it's off the table for that incline over there, about an inch, 2.5 centimeters. So it's quite comfortable. Now, before I plug it in, I guess, let's pop some stuff out of it. Because I really want to see this Hotswap component, since that's what is really piquing my curiosity here right now. Let's take out the H. Well, there's the keycap. It is reasonable thickness. It's DSA profile. We are talking 1 mil, so they're not super thick at 1.5 mil or anything like that. We've got the red switch. Okay, so they sent me a red switch. I thought I was getting a brown switch, but they sent me a red switch. Wait, the box said brown switch. The box says brown switch. They sent me a red switch. That's definitely linear. Fail. Absolute fail. So of course, if you don't get the switch that you want, you would have every right to make a complaint and say, what happened to the switches? Okay, so I'll take G and H off. And the plate matches the actual case color, so that's nice. It's got an actual sort of anodized silver to that. The dye sub actually looks really good, whereas if I'm going to just find my, where did my loop go? There we go. Okay, so let's just have a look at that, how clean it is. It's not too bad. It's straight lines are really good. The curved ends probably not fantastic. There we go. So you can see the straight lines are pretty clean if I can hold it in focus, but the sort of the curved ends of that, I'm just getting worse here. Look, from your typing distance, it looks nice and sharp. So I'm not going to say that there's any issues with it. In terms of the kerning, shift is together, backspace is together. You know, they look pretty centered. Some of these keycaps are a bit loose, as in they're not sitting all the way down, but I think the reason for that is shipping more than anything else. Okay, so far so good. So far so good. Now comes the switch pull test. All right, so okay, so that came out pretty good. Came out pretty easily. The pins are straight, and I can see it's got the Kailh style hot swap sockets in there, and it has a really unusual way of doing lighting. So it's an in switch RGB, but it's not an SMD because there's actually a cutout. Wow, I've actually never seen this before. That is so fascinating. I'm actually flabbergasted. That switch is mounted on, sorry, not the switch, the LED. The LED is mounted on the other side of the PCB facing through the PCB. It is not on the surface of the PCB on the switch side. That's amazing. I've never seen that before. Now, of course, this might be common in other boards and designs, especially by this group, because I'm aware that these guys who make the GK series have done a couple of other different boards. But for me, I've never encountered that before. That's a really interesting way of doing it. I suppose that guarantees clearance regardless of what kind of switches you put in there. Now, because this has got the Kailh style sockets, they're not like SIP sockets, they're not like Otemu sockets. This should be fairly universal for all standard MX type switches, okay? Which is really fantastic. So this is a Gatoron switch, but in my box of rando junk that I have here, I've got my sticky Kailh box switch. So I'm going to try putting that in right now and see how that goes, because in theory it should goes in like a charm, and now I've got two parts of the traffic lights. Okay, so that's pretty good. No issues whatsoever. Now I'm gonna put that way. Yeah, cool. Of course, I'm gonna pull up this other one just because I can. Yeah, so they both have switches mounted that way. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. That's really, really, really nifty. So originally what I wanted to do was take this apart and actually have a look at the hot swaps, because I thought it was going to be a two-part case. But because this is actually a tray drop-in case, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a look where the screws are. Okay, so the screws are definitely on the surface, but I don't know how many screws there are in this, and I might have to take the whole thing apart to actually check out the bottom of the keyboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these switches back in and put the keycaps on it. We'll do a little bit of typing. We'll do a little bit of play with the coloring, with the RGB-ness, and then I'll pull it apart and have a look at it from the inside. How does that sound? Now these are stock reds, not too scratchy, quite light, pretty standard, nothing very special about it. So don't expect anything special about them either. But Okay, so before I plug it in, let's just do a little bit of a typing sample, as I like to do, and try and ignore the road noise that is happening behind me. So this is the GK68 with Gatoron Reds on PBT Dyesubbed DSA keycaps. Okay, so hopefully that gave you an idea of what it sounds like. It's a little bit weird for me typing on this because the angle of this is actually, it's quite shallow. It's almost a neutral feeling angle. I'm so used to having sort of the higher up raised on my Philco keyboard with also the slightly sculpted E-drug mix profile, and it worked because I used my down bubble keyboard, which is the slight negative angle with SA keycaps. Typing on DSA is just taking me a little bit to wrap my head around the feeling of it. It doesn't feel bad, it just feels different. Okay, so it's quite muted, and let's just pull up some of these stabilized keys to have a look at the stabilizers on this. Okay, so they are factory lubed. Woo! So there's actually some lube. I don't know if it's going to show it on the keycap because I don't know if it's going to focus on the keycap. But there's a little bit of lube actually on the stem there, because I was thinking they sound really quiet and it sounds really soft. But the first thing is they are plate mounted stabilizers. They're plate mounted, they're not PCB mounted, and it is pre-lubed. You can see there's a bit of glossiness around the base of the stems, and there's this whitish stuff on the south side, and that's actually lube. So that's nice that it's pre-lubed, I guess. I'm not a huge fan of plate mount stabilizers personally, but hey, that's just the way it is. That's just the way that they've actually put this together. So let's just have a look on this shift. Yeah, it's also lubed. Nice. Okay, so that would explain why it's got a reasonable dampness sound to it. Okay, so cable, let's give it an actual plug in. I've got switch hitter already sitting in the background waiting. So on this side, it's quite deep. That recessing is actually quite deep. You can see how far back it goes in. Okay. Whoa, hey, look. Wow. It's cycling some serious color show right now. Let's enjoy a little bit of this color cycling. And the moment that I plugged it in, the software also kicked in. And this is what it's doing right now. It's actually pulsing and color shifting in sync or out of sync. So it's out of sync. So there's a delay. Now there's like these tiny edges on the actual screen. So I'm going to move it over here so you can see it on the right hand side. So the software has just gone through cyan to blue Now it's going to cyan now, and then it's going into blue, and now it's going to purple. So after this, it should cycle into green. So it's red to orange, and then so it is cycling, but I don't know if it's actually doing it real time to what the software is doing. Probably not. So first of all, let's just go to switch header and make sure that all of these actually work, because you never want to get a dud keyboard, of course. Okay, so is shift escape? Nope, is function escape. Okay, function escape is my tilde. We've got tab, caps lock. What are you doing, Ariete?
I'm popping the air away.
You're puffing the air away. Okay, well, Daddy's doing a review right now. Do you like the colors on this keyboard?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's
Okay.
changing colors.
It is changing colors. So function doesn't show up in switch header, but control does. Then we've got some arrow keys. We've got delete, page up, page down. Okay, so everything works on here. If I go function 1, then I'm going to get that function row, which is exactly what I'm expecting. And then I should have print screen, scroll lock, pause break, insert, home, and end. Page up, page down again on the functions. Okay, so it does everything that it's meant to do from a switch header perspective. The other thing that I just realized is it's actually got deep homing. It's got deep homing keys for J and F. Like, you can see it just there. J is deep and F is deep. So that's actually really cool. That's really cool. Right.
The key.
What about the keyboard?
No.
Okay.
Keycap.
The keycap.
Yeah.
Now, so we can see that it tells you that you can have lighting and function. So you can change its function supposedly. So let's just go with A. And I want to choose, right, so it's fixed in that what you can actually change it to by the looks of it, and you can supposedly clear it. It does have a macro mode, and down here it says perform 1, enabled auto stop, macro press, well, macro button release stop,
Blue.
button again press to stop. So it looks like you've got some complexity that you can actually
Pink.
sort of play with
Red.
in recording macros, but it's certainly not
Green.
programmable from a QMK
Blue.
type of thing. So we've got some lighting controls, we've got some music
Pink.
controls.
Orange.
Okay, so I've just gone and done that. So it's, well, the keyboard's still cycling, but it hasn't passed through. Now if I hit the tick, okay, so the keyboard now is just solid red. It's just staying there solid red. Whereas if I go with, say, C wave, oh, okay, fancy, and I hit tick, and now it's doing exactly what the driver is basically doing. So it's programming it live. Stream never stop flowing. Let's do that. Whoa. Rightio. Wow, trippy. Okay, so we know that the lighting seems to be working.
Daddy.
Yes,
Why are
Ariete?
the colors on there?
Well, there's colors on there because it's telling what the keyboard is doing. Okay, we can set the colors over here, and it'll make the colors happen over here. Okay? Now.
Okay, Papa.
Okay, so system backlight, CSO game, music volume 2. I don't know what that means. So let's go with music volume and sync that. Now I'm expecting that it's going to behave potentially like waveforms. because this bottom row is currently lit up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open Spotify. Now, I'm not going to play music because I don't want copy striking, because I'm obviously, you know, not trying to knock off anybody's music and the speakers are off. So hopefully that should be okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over and I'm going to play. Way. Okay. So it's definitely doing something in regards to the music. Now if I drop the music volume, yeah, look at that. As I increase the music volume and it's increasing the music. I've actually got headphones here, so I can check against that. That's actually really cool. I've never seen software defaulting that can do this. I'm just gonna minimize my Spotify and let's go back and have a look at what music volume 2 looks like. Whoa, that looks really colorful. So let's just pause what I've got going on there, minimize that. Okay, so music volume 2, right, so it's currently set to music volume 2, nothing's happening on the keyboard. I don't know what I'm expecting. It could just be total gradient intensity of lighting. And let's go back to the music and let's turn on the music. Okay, so it's just instrumental at the moment. Come on. Just playing in between verses. Okay, so they're singing. Yeah, so this is behaving more like an actual volume waveform, because you can see what's happening here in the way that it's cycling is matching the actual lyric volume. So I'd expect that as it starts to ramp up to louder parts of the song, which is what it's getting to, we're seeing that next row of light that's actually happening. Now it's about to hit the chorus. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So the volume is actually being displayed by the height and the length of the bars under volume 2, which I think is actually really, really cool. Now I don't play CSGO, so I actually have no idea what CSGO game will look like. So that's just like, okay, so this is just a preset for like your WASD, and I guess I don't know what the rest of the color scheme is trying to indicate. So yeah, that's some very, very interesting color patterns. Now if I have a look here, you know, there's different presets that it can help you with. Oh, stylish. Wow, that's like jelly pom happening right now, all over the place. Walking the waves. It's a bit like Nyan Cat passing by. Hours of entertainment. Colorful cloud, drift collide, neon glow, flame. Oh, okay. Let's see what flame looks like. So I suppose if you're missing a fireplace and you want to have a bit of that flame glow in your bedroom at night, maybe you can turn it on to this and let it run. I don't think I've ever had this much fun with an RGB capable keyboard yet. Alright, so colorful, waterfall, 4 seasons as spring. That's just weird. Rainbow wave, windmill. Okay, so the colors are cycling. Spectral cycle, that's the gradient. Green, we've already seen that. So that's respirating. Alright, and then DIY, where you can actually pick what colors you want by using the color picker down below, I would assume, or something of that nature. Current color? Maybe? Oh, okay, so no. I'm a little bit confused at how, oh, okay, so you do have to sort of choose it and then go back to that key and then it'll actually change it over. So I've just gone and made that Q yellow and it's yellow. So that's actually pretty cool. Oop, I'm on the wrong screen. There we go. So functions. Okay, so you can remap it. So if I select that as Q, I can turn that into W. So you can kind of QMK that, but it seems to be quite, wow, you can even simulate mouse clicks on this and system or disable some of these functions. And of course you can just hit that and that'll do what you've told it to, which is really, really interesting. It is just, of course, very time consuming if you want to set this up. It doesn't look like it has any automatic means of, selecting, say, Dvorak or Colmac type of layouts, but that would certainly be something to think about. Rightio. So, and I suspect that's probably, is that going to download from the computer? No. All right, that goes back to picking functions and default functions that you can choose. Lighting and shortcuts. Okay. So, right, so that's very similar to, you can rename it and you can export and you can import by the looks of that. I'm sure there's help files that can give you a little bit more on what's going on there. But I think, okay, so we've got layers here. Right, so that's the default layers. So you can build layers using this as well. So I was on driver mode, and how about we just go back to default lighting? Actually, I don't know if you can. You should be able to turn off lighting, but no. What have I done? What have I done? What have I done? What have I done? Can I? What does that mean? Okay, so here's a function layer button. Function X. Okay. Function X. So if I go back to Q, how do I clear it? How do I clear it? How do I clear it? Can I go back to red? I'm very confused. DIY lights. Onboard settings. Okay, so we were kind of on onboard before. We were on light. Oh, so this is telling me what's currently mapped on the keyboard. And then that's in driver mode, I think. And then we're on lights. No, it says please. Settings. Restore factory default. Okay, that didn't do very much. That's background for the actual software package. Okay, so I think that's gone and reset it. Yep, it's completely reset that. So it did work, it just took a couple of seconds for it to punch it through to reset that to factory settings. Okay, so we're back to factory settings. As you can see, you can have a lot of fun with this and actually playing with that RGB, which I think is really cool. If you've got the time and inclination to fully customize it, or you just want to have a bit of fun and play with it in certain modes. So let's just get out of that. For the moment, we know that it works. We've done the sound sample. So let's just have a look at it under the hood. Yeah. There we go. Right. unplug it. Whoop. Unplug that. Let's just pack the cable up for the moment so it's not going to get in the way. Whoosh. Like I said, I don't think I've ever had that much fun actually testing RGB. I'm not a massive fan normally of coloring because at home it doesn't really serve that much purpose because I always have my lights on anyway, so you don't see it in its color depth, and it's not something I'm interested in to have showing at work, simply because that kind of gives really the wrong impression of, you know, my keyboard and my work environment. I would say it's relatively unprofessional to be having RGB when you work in some industries. I'm sure if you work in other industries, gaming industry and things like that, it probably wouldn't be an issue. So we need to identify where all the screws are, and that probably really just involves stripping the whole keyboard down. So since I don't know if this... Okay, so that's one of the risks and hazards that you get with a hot swap, is that you will end up pulling switches out. Now, I've just seen something that looks like it could be a problem. What on earth is... There is this right there. The top of that appears to be flattened off, but there's an actual pillar underneath that. So I'm so confused, because is that holding the PCB to the plate, or but over here next to the space bar there's a screw, a Phillips screw. Anyway, I'm just going to keep taking these keycaps and switches off, and we'll get to the bottom of this mystery very shortly. See, there's another screw that's just turned up over there. Maybe it is a spacer to hold the PCB against the plate, which is very unusual because, you know, in this kind of design I wouldn't have thought that would be really an issue or a requirement. Oh, lost another switch. There's another screw up the top. So already the placement of these screws are definitely sort of a non-standard. Now, I have been reading in some of the commentary about the GK series and trying to find replacement cases for them, and it would seem like these non-standard screw positions and the USB position, it's not really possible. So if you're thinking of investing in one of these and wanting to swap it out to a different case, expect to not be able to do that. Right, so we've got another screw there, and it's quite weird because most designs, the actual screws are in the middle position between the switches evenly, not in these odd offsets. However, this might be due to hot swap sockets and other considerations. The circuitry / controllers required for the RGBs might be part of the reason, but we will check it out very shortly. Now, there is offline mode, which we kind of didn't test, but I have relative confidence that it'll work and that it's going to be one of the modes that was already preset there. But like I said, personally for me, RGB is not a real big deal, and if you're going to be using this actively on a device anyway, if it's a device that you own, you can have that driver software available running to you. It's more that if you're going to take this and be mobile and not have that on, and you want to change and cycle, then you can use the presets. This is really interesting because normally you would actually expect to see a retaining screw in the middle here, and I'm not seeing any of them. So far we've got 3 across the top. 1, 2, there's another one here between the space bar and the Alt key. There's nothing in the middle. So the fact that the middle doesn't flex, it makes me wonder what's actually supporting that. So there's another one of those weird hex things that's up there, just in between the tab and the 1. And there's another one here. There's another one over here underneath that one. And of course we've popped that out. So we can see there's a bit of I don't know what that is. Alright, so first of all there's a bit of silkscreen that's visible through there, and it says the GK68B RGB, so this must be revision B. JIKEDINGZHI.com. But then there's this thing. It doesn't move. Is that like... It's like a microphone. I think it's a microphone. It's a bit unusual. Maybe that is a means of hearing input sounds and then it displays it as one of the volume functions. It's all very mysterious. Alright, so we've actually ended up pulling up some of these switches, as you can see, and that's one of the hazards of having a hot swap system. Now I've got my tray out. I'm going to pull out my screwdriver set here. And let's see if we can take some of these screws out and have a look at the underside, and maybe that'll give us a bit of insight into what's happening there as well. So let's pick an appropriately sized screwdriver. Okay. Came out pretty easy. The screws are quite a length and they're not magnetic. So that's something. Daddy is taking apart this keyboard so he can have a look at it underneath.
Oh.
Yeah.
Underneath?
Underneath, that's right.
I'm using that?
Yes, I am using that. Because Daddy doesn't have his forceps out, so he's using that instead. Okay, so there's another screw that's just here as well. We'll see if this is actually openable. I must say the quality of the actual anodizer is quite nice. It's quite even. It's a good color. There's another one of those support bar things there. Oh, thank you for the bus. And there's another support bar thing. So there's one up there and then there's one down there as well. Can we put the bus just somewhere else at the moment? Daddy doesn't have space on the table. So these screws are non-magnetic because my screwdriver is magnetic. It would be much more appreciated if it was magnetic. Alright, 2 more, and hopefully we will be able to unravel the mystery. Oh, it's alright, at least they will come out hopefully easily if they fall into one of these holes. There we go. Okay, so all the screws are out. We have liftoff. Okay. So none of these pillars are staying down, and it looks like they really are just some kind of support brace, because the PCB has a really interesting design. Okay, so we've got those holding the PCB to these struts. So it's actually double secured. It's PCB screwed onto the plate, and then the plate screwed tray mount into the bottom of the case, which is really interesting because it's got the standard sort of 60% mount points, and the PCB's got slots for them as well, but that one's not cut out on this side, and the plate doesn't have holes for them, so they're not even used, those 2 points. The RGBs are standard 4, but the way that they've got them orientated and the way that they're soldered is, of course, reverse, as we talked about, so they go through. They are used in the Kailh Hotswaps because it specifically has Kailh marked on that. You can kind of just see that if, there we go, if the lighting will show you. So they're Kailh branded Hotswaps. Now, where is that weird thing down over here? So it's hidden underneath this U4 chip. I don't know what that U4... No, it's just here. There we go. Q11, Q12 is these two square blocks. And then there's this thing here. So there's definitely some kind of electrical connection there, and I suspect it's a microphone. It's a microphone is what I think it is. That's, yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting. Now, there is also LEDs on the edges here. So there's two down here, two up there, and then there's one over here in the other corner, 2, 3, and 4. So that's kind of giving you edge lighting instead of just through the bottom and around that underglow. Is there a physical reset switch on here? Does not look like there's a physical reset switch, so it's completely software driven. Now the controller is this guy over here, but I can't see any markings on it. But if I get my loop, maybe the light and the magnification might give me. Okay, so the controller is a COR M3, and it has a serial number of SE32F08L64. So I don't know what kind of controller that is, but that's what it is. Is there any detail on this thing? SM161363. Okay. I don't know enough electronics to be able to tell you what's going on there, but whatever it is, it does the job. What can I say? It's a very clean board. It's a very clean design, and it looks relatively well made, well put together. It's just this microphone. It's just this microphone. That light there's got a lot of flux around it compared to some of these other joins, and there's a bit of flux residue that's sort of happening around this section here as well. So it would seem like they might have had a bit of challenges getting them on. Yeah, there's nothing really else that I can tell you about. The USB-C port though is interesting because it's got through-hole mount legs. So it's not a pure SMD type of socket, which is good. So it's definitely got more stability and strength on that. So I would expect that this socket itself isn't going to detach and break as easily compared to others which rely just on SMD contact. So that's a plus. And of course, because of the way that the case is and how recessed that is, it's going to take you a lot of force to actually get that, because it protrudes through that, to break off. So there you go. There you have it. That is the backside of this. So the microphone concerns me a little bit, only because I don't know if there's any means of being able to find out if it's actually recording and transmitting what you say somewhere else. I don't expect that it is necessarily going to be saving it in a file, because you could probably plug this into a clean device and actually check if it's trying to save it somewhere, unless if it's saving on its onboard memory, because we know that the driver does permit onboard memory, because it can change the LED states.
Candle.
Yeah, you have a LED candle.
Yeah.
But if you're a little bit security conscious like I am, and you have concerns, then this is going to be a concern for you. This is going to be a concern for you. I don't have the means to test it or to find out, but anybody out there who does see this and knows a bit more, and maybe has a way of being able to determine what's going on here, or can investigate into it, I would love to hear from you. And of course, please leave the comments below, or have a discussion on the Reddit thread, where I know that this will be posted. But of course, if it's just as harmless as it's picking up volume so it can display the actual music type for the RGB lighting, then fantastic. But yeah. Now it has that foamy cover on it, which is typical from microphones to prevent stuff from getting in it. And it's not peeling up, but I can definitely see there's a metal sort of mesh underneath that. So I am very much aware that it is highly likely to be a microphone. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. You just need to be aware of what you potentially have here, if you are sensitive to these kinds of things and devices. So I'm just going to put that back together while I gather my thoughts right now, and how we're going to conclude, and what I think of this overall. Now you'll notice that I've just suddenly become quite subdued, and the only reason why I've become quite subdued is because of the potential that that microphone is doing something that it really shouldn't be doing. The invasion of privacy or anything of that nature, collecting sensitive information or material, depending on the environment that you live and work and play in. For me, knowing that it has that device and my work environment, there is no way that I would ever take this to work now. It just wouldn't make sense for me to do so. It is too great a risk. If you are a person who is at home and you don't have such concerns, because obviously, if you're typing passwords into stuff, well, you don't even know what it's going to be doing anyway if it's trying to record and transmit passwords. So having a microphone is probably not going to be an issue for you regardless. If I ignore the fact that it has what appears to be a microphone installed on this keyboard, for whatever reasons that a microphone exists on this keyboard, then I would say that this is actually a really well built keyboard. It's very solid, it's very sturdy, it's got really great quality features to it. The anodization is really great. You can hot swap any standard MX type of switch into this as well. It's using the Kailh hotswap switch permit you to do that. The USB cable design, the port where it's being placed, is extremely solid, so you're not likely to actually break that, which is a concern on some other cheaper USB-C devices. And if you want to have a lot of fun with the RGB, it's actually definitely there. Plus, we can see that it can record macros and do complete different layouts. It's just a little bit clunky because you have to reassign it key by key, which of course you would save it and export it, because then the next time if you do a reset, you would just reload that back in because it looks like it's got an import function. So you won't be wasting time doing that again. Overall, I would actually be really happy with this if I ignored the fact that there is potentially a microphone device on board. Now, yes, I have desoldering tools. I could go in here and desolder that device, and hopefully it won't impact the ability for the keyboard to do whatever it does. You know, I could actually short that and see what it does, because if it doesn't affect the lighting and I have the lighting turned off anyway, it wouldn't matter, simply because if it is reporting a audio recording or signal to somebody, all they're going to get is on and full volume, right? So they're just going to get junk in regards to recording data. So that is a tactic that you could employ, assuming that it doesn't actually cause it to fail in working as a keyboard. So that's just some of the things to think about. Now, the price point that we saw earlier at $200 Australian, I actually think it's quite reasonable for what you're actually getting here. You're getting a really nice case. It's very well milled and designed. It comes with feet that you can take off if you want it to be flat, and it's actually quite low profile if you take the feet off. I'm just going to take the feet off because I can now. I've already stripped everything else off this thing. And they even give you the replacement bumpons so you can have it flat. Ooh. It's actually quite low. It's quite low indeed. And it's quite thin and portable. Like, you just look how thin that is, right? You know, we're talking an overall thickness once you take care of the feet, like to the actual top of the switches is less than an inch. So it's quite thin, quite portable, you know, easy to slip into something. And of course it's got that carry pouch anyway. So for $200 or so, for a custom that you can actually customize, because you can take out the switches and replace them, that's got controllable lighting. It's pre-lubed stabilizers. It's just a pity that they are plate mounted, because I would have preferred PCB-mount stabilizers, but that's a personal preference more than anything else. Pre-lubed, I think is really fantastic. It's very good value. My only concern is whoever has it in stock and how they ship it to you should put in a little bit more effort to actually protecting the keyboard when it's being shipped. I feel like they could have done a little bit more in putting some packaging inside the box as well, because this sitting just inside that slipcase didn't offer it a really good protective means. So, you know, the case itself is not an issue because it's not likely to get damaged from transit being in that soft case, but it's still a cringe factor, because nobody ever wants to see something, especially at this price point, come in, you know, a situation like that, right? Like, I know when I saw that it didn't have that padding that it should have had in it, I was kind of like, oh, you know, like, what happened to the padding? So it's just something to think about, that yeah, it probably really should have a bit more protective measures on it. Okay, so I'm just slowly putting it back together. Other than that, I don't really have any negative things to say about it. The quality of the keycaps seem fine. Like, they're DSA, they're a good thickness, in that 1mm is pretty standard. They're not 1.5mm thick keycaps, but I can live with that. That was interesting. I thought I didn't have a tilde key, but I guess there is a tilde key. That was why I was kind of like stunned mullet for a second, because I was like, where did that come from? I'm just putting these in so that it's easier once I get around to putting the rest of it together, but I'm not expecting that I'm going to, you know, burn more time putting the rest of that on. Okay, so here is the GK68. It weighs about 1 kilo. It's hot swappable. It's RGB. It's controllable. It's lots of fun. It's angled feet. It comes with the USB-C cable. Comes with a switch puller. Comes with a keycap puller. Comes with replacement bumpons if you want to have it flat when you take the feet off. Comes with a carry case, very simple, very stylish. Comes with a quick reference card. And for what it's worth, it seems to be quite a well-valued keyboard. Oh, you have some cheese. Okay, make sure you eat it and then wash your hands afterwards. So there you have it. If you want to check it out for yourself, of course, please have a look at it through the links below in the description. If you see this on Reddit, then you'll have to go to YouTube and check out the links because Reddit doesn't like the shortcut links that are used. I promise there's no malware or viruses or anything of that nature in the links, but hey, it's up to your own judgment and the way that you treat clicking on mysterious links. Other than that, that's it. I know it's been quite a long video, like wow, an hour and 5 minutes, an hour 6 minutes, but I did promise it was not a quick review. In fact, it was quite an extensive, in-depth look at this keyboard. So if you like this kind of stuff, please hit that like button. Smash it hard. If you want other people to check out this review because they're looking for a 68 key, 65% keyboard, then please hit that share button so that they can check it out and make up their own mind if this is something for them and in their interest, of course. And of course, if you somehow come across this YouTube channel because you were looking for other reviews and things about mechanical keyboards and you haven't subscribed, I would love it and appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button as well. Plus, at the moment, we haven't got 3,000 subscribers, but when we hit 3,000 subscribers, we will be giving away a mystery keyboard courtesy of Mitenole. So please keep your eyes out peeled for that. And lastly, I want to say thank you to Banggood for actually being such good sports. I know that they're promoting their September 13-year anniversary sale, but they didn't have to send me such a lovely and expensive keyboard to review for that, but they did. So I really appreciate it. And hopefully, you guys will give them a bit of love as well because it all helps us in a circular fashion. So there you have it. GK68 mechanical keyboard Hotswap with Dyesubbed DSA PBT keycaps. Thanks again for checking out the video. And of course, until next time, happy clacking.